The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Big Ben Haslar presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Haslar. Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we're hearing the case of The People versus Trollhunter, a 2010 found footage horror film that follows a group of students as they investigate a suspected bear poacher in Norway, only to discover a much more dangerous truth. It's trolls. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we're here to determine that this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond the shadow of reasonable doubt that the film is guilty. Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, you are representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Today, ladies and gentlemen of the court, we have another chapter in the tome of found footage movies. Everyone's been chasing Blair Witch in one form or another, and this movie is no exception, right down to the quote, "and they were never heard from again." Now, don't let this dearth of originality be the only reason you vote guilty. Let's look at a few other factors. First, I would like to address the myth versus science aspect of this movie, especially when you have to keep in mind that the movie deliberately tells you to ignore fairy tales. Second, I will address the unsatisfying arc we are forced to endure. The telos of this movie is not made abundantly clear. And lastly, we need to look broadly and holistically at what the found footage genre means in terms of style here. There are several missteps that hurt this movie, and again, by the rules it laid out for itself. So please take your vitamin D supplements, rub this troll stench upon yourself, which smells remarkably like the bailiff's cologne, and let us spelunk into this found footage nightmare.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender. His mother was a troll, and he's very sensitive about it, so I
had no idea.
Anymore. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Dr. London Smith. Please present your opening statement.
That's right. So, as you heard already, the movie known as Trollhunter is a found footage documentary style movie, and I think it really presents everything you need. It starts off giving these large scenic views of Norway, and for those of us who have never been, it really awakens the imagination in that regard. We're wanting to see this place, and the script, it does ask you to ignore fairy tales, embrace sort of a scientific viewpoint. And there's a certain grounding that the script manages to do, despite the fact that we are discussing giant trolls that are throwing rocks in the mountains, unbeknownst to the common people. So I would also say this, the arc I found to be satisfactory enough that I keep crawling back. And I will say, as one person who does not normally watch a lot of foreign films, I was certainly convinced to keep coming back, despite not even knowing the language.
You did watch it with subtitles, right?
Oh, several. But
it does help. It does help.
Yeah, they also spoke English a little bit in the movie, which also helped.
Yeah, screaming is the same in all languages. Thank you, Dr. Smith. The pain. Dylan Schlender, you may present your first exhibit.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to start with Trolls, the myth versus reality as the context of this film. And to get things started, I want to submit the following line from the troll hunter himself, Hans. He says, quote, "Fairy tales are for kids. Trolls are animals, predators. They eat shit and mate. Eat anything they can." So let's put this in an Americanized context a bit so Ben will understand and the listeners at home. who are
It's Donald
mostly
Trump, isn't it?
American. No, in the Bigfoot community, there's two camps. There are those that think Bigfoot is a great North American ape, and then there is what is derogatorily called the woo-woo. And this is the idea that Bigfoot is an alien hominid dimension traveler, possibly a time traveler. All the weird, shadow stepping theories you may or may not have heard about Bigfoot till now, that he's the descendant of Nephilim, things of that nature. So in Trollhunter, I know Maynard. I wasn't explaining it for your benefit. So
I only know.
I've never heard that.
I only know Bigfoot from a scientific point of view. I'm sorry.
I know. That's why I wanted to give this background. It was for your benefit.
Yeah.
So in Trollhunter, we are asked to think of the troll as a predator, as an animal, ergo, no woo-woo. We're even given a scene with a troll scientist explaining why the sun hurts it. The science of the rapid expansion. It's okay. It's flimsy, but flimsy is a type of stability if you think about it. So the real gripe I have, and hence all the table setting, is that the trolls can smell Christian blood. Wait, what? Mm-hmm. Religion doesn't change your blood? And I believe there's a doctor in court that could attest to that very fact. And this idea...
Okay, so if you are going to call me out here...
I am.
I've never witnessed a troll smelling anything before. So for me to start throwing my assumptions on it, I think is unfair.
But you have to admit that your religion doesn't dictate anything about your blood.
To my knowledge, but I haven't worked with a troll. There's a lot of science is unknown, and this is a whole area of I'm not sure how my religious beliefs would affect my stench.
Don't worry, because I did the research to figure out where this idea of trolls being able to smell Christian blood came from, and it's based on a fairy tale, which again we were told to ignore, called Sore More Castle, which features a troll claiming he smells the blood of a Christian man. When we look at the definitive American work, because I have no time to translate, Swedish Folktales and Legends in 1978 as published by John Lindau, we are sure enough seeing pre- and post-Christian troll myths. But a troll, he would argue, would refer to a Christian man, not in the context of being religious, because at that time everyone was Christian. It was a different way of saying human. It was a way of differentiating it from other creatures that existed, including like wood elves and the like. So we are not given the slightest bit of pseudoscience explanation for what could be considered a translation choice from a handful of fairy tales. And this is a very poignant fact in the movie. Mind you, that gospel music even enrages the trolls. So I would remind you, jury, I am not nitpicking. I am approaching the movie by its own rules. It asked us to ignore fairy tales and magic, and then gives us this huge steaming pile of it.
If I may,
Dr. Smith, do we need to call the Mythbusters in here to determine the plausibility of this myth?
I would love that.
I would like to present a counterpoint here. So yes, they work under this assumption that being Christian changes things, right? And then we have the Christian character in there. But really, where this becomes important in the plot line is that the Christian professing, well, I guess not in professing until very late in the game, that character, it becomes a useful plot point whenever he starts becoming nervous about it. So in my mind, it might be a false hypothesis, but they're working on this hypothesis because perhaps it's the best one we got. I don't know the history of how they came to that point. They might have a different history than the fairy tale one, or they might be reliant upon it. Regardless, that's the one they're working with, and that's the word they're spreading. So we know that human sweat in general, from the start, is an issue. And so when this one person gets particularly nervous about his chosen faith, he responds to that with a sympathetic response. He sweats a lot. And that increased sweating, and possibly also just the loud noises he makes in response, that awakens the troll to his location and gets ultimately results in his demise. So I would say, sure, they present this concept and that the religion is a factor, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's true. It's just what they have basically as a science, because they are pulling from limited resources, limited information, and I would assume, were they this all real life, then they would be kind of just working with what they have. And
it does beg the question, how does Hans come to this conclusion that they smell Christian blood when he's usually fighting solo? And maybe you're right, Doctor. Maybe it is that sweating off. He sweats the stench right off. He's rubbing the stench all over him. He can't keep it on because he is sweatier than Ron Maynard in church. But let me tell you something. We don't just see that. We do see Hans spread Christian blood on the bridge to attract the troll.
Where'd he get
so? Where indeed? Maybe it's like holy water. So you have a priest bless the blood.
I don't see
Christian
Ryan
blood.
anywhere. Where is he?
Oh no! I told you he was a lapsed Catholic. It doesn't count. Poor Ryan. Anyway,
he's a relapsed Catholic.
Oh well, that does count. But my point is, they made a big deal about fairy tales. There was a troll scientist. And I actually have it on authority that there was a deleted scene that the director left out for some bizarre reason, where the scientist even makes this argument saying, I don't believe they're attracted to Christians. It doesn't make sense. And Hans says he's seen it too many times to deny it. They should have left that scene in. It would have been interesting. But as the film we watched
can we have the jury dismiss that? Because that's not relevant in this case, correct?
No, I'm sorry. It is.
It's
no, the
the
deleted scene
director
is
said.
inadmissible. Yes. But you can consider it as far as does it add to your understanding of the movie what their intention was. So I say it is admissible.
Thank you, Your Honor. But yeah, that would be my point about the whole myth versus facts. They wanted to lean in one direction, like what if trolls were real predators, which is a neat idea. But then they throw that all out to do the magic stuff, which it hurts the film. So that would be my first point, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you have a second exhibit?
I do.
Wow.
So the movie starts off with just saying the footage was sent anonymously and the students were never heard from again. This is found footage 101 stuff, so we could put it aside. Or don't. Find it guilty based off that. I'm fine with that if you want. So
we might.
What exactly are we doing for the hour and 40 minutes here? Let's think about it. We see a troll hunter, a government agency dedicated to stopping trolls, all off the jump, all within the first 30 minutes. The kids have more footage than they could ever need. They have the testimony of the country's greatest troll hunter. You know, there's no way they could prove this massive cover-up in conspiracy. Yet, there's a lot of more movie that needs to happen, though we just see the same beats over and over again. Another troll encounter, running away with the shaky cam. You do have to ask, what are you still doing out there? Why didn't you send the first tapes up and keep going? At the beginning of the movie, it says the film was recovered by the Norwegian film concern. I'm going to butcher this, so I apologize to all of our Norwegian listeners. Film Kammer Artani AS, which is actually a real film company. They're the ones who produced this movie. So according to this opening, someone saw their other movies, Max Manus, Man of War, and Body Troopers, and thought, yes, these hackers are the perfect guys to send this groundbreaking footage of trolls to. Not, the news. So what are we doing here
it's
when they give up
news.
the game in the first 30 minutes?
That is a pretty damning exhibit, Dr. Smith. Do you have a rebuttal?
Oh, plenty. Well, for one thing, maybe you aren't familiar with movie distribution. Your first ones don't always take it. Maybe the news didn't love the idea of, publishing this news story, in part because there is this whole, government program dedicated to preventing that. So my guess, and once again, I've only looked into this a little bit on how film distribution works. They probably sent it out to a number of markets, and this is the one that took it seriously enough to do something with it. So to me, that's just like a marketing thing. And it's college students as well, so they don't have a name in this business necessarily. I wouldn't assume they have a name in this business.
Do you think it was the students who sent the footage anonymously? Like, do you think they survived at the end? Is that your contention?
It's not like they don't give an explanation for it. I think someone got a hold of it.
They don't.
And also made copies of it is another guess of mine. If it's you made the argument and it made it sound a lot like there was one copy to send somewhere. I bet they made quite a few copies, sent it around. Someone picked up on it. I don't know. Yeah, especially because actually I would contend that unless they were very quick with it, that main character Thomas did have rabies, which is very deadly.
I don't think it's that deadly. He was fine pretty much the rest of the time.
Yeah,
man.
well, it's not deadly until it does get to your brain, and then it is quite deadly. It's like 99.9%.
Hey, you said you've never seen trolls in action. You can't testify to the efficacy of troll rabies. Your Honor, I object.
Okay,
maybe the Norwegian government is just that powerful in covering all this up. I don't know.
Okay, so Your Honor, I have one last small point.
Oh, sorry, hold on. I have
Okay.
another rebuttal to make to another point you made.
Excellent.
Why do they keep following after 30 minutes worth of footage? Because they're seeing freaking trolls. Like, and they're in college.
My contention is that
and their car got destroyed.
They could have sent up they could have secured the first bit. Like, the fact is they're with this guy almost a month doing this. Sure. It's like, what more do you need? Like, if you could show people you have real trolls there, you'll get all sorts of financing to keep making troll movies. I mean, that's what Patterson Gimlin tried to do with the Bigfoot footage that they had. But anyway, I just want to bring up my last
run towards the trolls, I think.
Yeah,
when you're in the field and you're getting it, do you want to say, hey, could you pull over at this mailbox? I feel like they
I certainly would. It's like they enough time
Keep
to not warn their cameraman and hire a new one. They're disgusting people. Anyway, let me bring up my
there's some room for that, yes.
All right. My last point, Your Honor, and then I will be resting, is when we look at the found footage genre, I think it's safe to say that Trollhunter is just a smidge too slick. And for a reason. It's supposed to be a rough cut of a documentary, but we see several things that hurt this idea of it being pure found footage or being documentary. There's several instances where we don't know who's holding the camera and why, like establishment shots of the final cabin that they're in, footage of the Jeep driving away while you can see the whole cast is in said Jeep. At least Survivor Man would tell us that he had to go back and get the camera. So stylistically, the movie clashes with itself. If it picked a lane, polished documentary, or, obviously mockumentary, or in this case, let's not get into the nitty-gritty, or the gritty found footage lane, you would have a better movie. But the straddling of this line comes across as just lazy and, kind of hedging their bets. And I will rest there.
Rest well, sweet Schlender.
Thank you.
Dr. Smith, do you have the first exhibit you would like to bring?
Yeah, I guess so. First off, the way that the script was written, assuming as we go into this that it was not necessarily an actual real found footage situation, that this is a script, which I was fooled on my first several viewings.
You thought they were real trolls? That's sad. He's a doctor.
I've been on safari before. I've been on a lot of trips to a lot of places, and I've seen some crazy stuff. I've seen hippos charging. Trolls didn't seem so out. I've seen Thanos.
What? Wait, what?
I'm just saying. So there was room
fade
for
like
belief.
tears in rain.
So the script felt fairly real and grounded, especially from the start, because it does ease you into it. College students try to film some bears. There's more of a story going on. It's a lot of the night scenes at first. So you are, even with the special effects, you're brought in a little bit slowly with flashes. And then eventually, of course, it culminates in very larger shots. So that's one point, is just how the natural progression of it felt, to me, felt fairly natural. The car gets destroyed. So they have to stick with this guy like glued, more or less, because he has a car. There's a specific need that forces them to keep going with this documentary. to the extent
But
that
they do end up in a town with him. And also, I would like to object to your pacing claim here. It's like, yes, the trolls get bigger and more violent in scope, but the actual shock and reveal of the first troll, again, that's in the first 30 minutes. And I think all the other trolls after that, you're ready for them. You know, I don't, the really, really big one at the end is kind of cool, but it's so telegraphed and expected. There's not a lot of pizzazz there.
But it really happened, Mr. Schlender. How do you know that it didn't?
Yeah, first of all, it really happened. Second, we aren't just introduced the idea of, a big monster. Oh, a big monster. There's more of a process to it of him saying, we have to fill out these forms. There are aspects to it to notice and look for. And so the audience gets to this point of, I'm looking for these, whatever, the extra heads that'll grow out, age, does it explode? Things like this that, there's a reason to look closely instead of just seeing big monster. And these things are introduced incrementally over time. So, and then of course there's there are bigger ones here. And then there's also the whole, the position of rocks, which can be a very boring sounding thing, but it all adds into this buildup of nuance that forms a larger picture, which once again, I feel like incrementally and in a way that, that helps the pace to be reasonable.
I will agree with you there, Doctor. It does have such a quotidian feel to it. You wonder how this has been a successful cover-up this whole time. Everyone's very cavalier, honest, and open about the existence of trolls, but this is the first time it's been exposed. Keeping in mind, they had been dealing with trolls way back, as far as we know, at least to the 70s. Never mind the fact that trolls had allegedly existed for maybe up to 2,000 years, according to one character, and they're just now getting the footage. It's just strange credulity, I feel.
Yeah,
You didn't make friends with Hans.
I mean, for one, it's a lot of things in this world are difficult to film. So, especially, wild animals. And if snow leopards are difficult to film. So
I would argue and submit to the court that 30-foot trolls that walk really slow are not hard to film. I'm just going to throw that one out there.
You try it, is what I'd say.
We still haven't gotten a great shot of Nessie.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true. Very good point.
You can talk a big game, but you try it,
I think I'd be a good
Did you have a second exhibit, Dr. Smith?
Yeah, let's see. Let's hold on. The effort that they went to explain how the physiology works, how vitamin D works within the body. And I don't know if anyone here reads any medical articles or supplement commercials.
Weekly. Yeah.
There are these big pushes for vitamin D, even in humans, because vitamin D it's a very complicated sort of process through which we absorb and utilize vitamin D in ourselves. And it's not just to absorb calcium, but it's a number of other factors related to just general health and stamina. So for them to introduce that as a concept, there's a lot of wiggle room in there for them to play. So the fact that they did make an effort at, here's an explanation for the young, why they don't explode, why they do explode, and then because of gas exchange and whatever, and then for the old, why they just turn to stone due to atherosclerosis and these aging factors. All of this seemed like a very real effort to, I would assume they actually got some scientific consulting, because it did sound believable to some extent.
Hey, I already could see that flimsy is a type of stability.
Yeah. And also, one thing to bear in mind there is most of the scientific study is done by, there's one person that's a vet who, as far as we're aware, it's one person who's trusted by the Hans, the Trollhunter, who is not a scientist, who's just a hunter. Like that's he served in the military. That's his history, as far as we're aware. So that's all of our scientific knowledge is derived through all of that. So,
well, this doesn't exist in a vacuum. Again, the government's been handling trolls since at least the 70s, so it's very convenient to say, it's one vet and one hunter. But yeah, over the course of 60 plus years, you would assume more information and knowledge would be built up at this point than just trusting these two characters, which You're right. It does seem like we're just trusted these two characters, which doesn't make sense when there's an entire government agency dedicated to this.
I've seen our government agencies at work.
Have you seen Norway's?
Yeah, like, I mean, maybe Norway is way better, but like this is just having seen how what's supposedly the most powerful government in the world, or most powerful nation in the world, how we've handled some things very publicly badly. It's, to me, extremely reasonable to say that these guys...
There hasn't been a troll sighting since the Carter administration.
Yeah. So just...
Nixon promised to reveal the Bigfoot tapes, but he never got around to it.
That was the 16 minutes that was deleted.
So
and a troll in his office.
So far-fetched that a government agency would be bad at this. Is it? Is it really?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know what? I'll concede the point.
All right, point one to the defense. Can you bring it home, Dr. Smith, with a third exhibit?
Right, and I'd like to end with your one point you made in the beginning with the unsatisfactory arc. You felt like it didn't... They were working with the footage they had. They found this footage, and they had to put together something. And,
Cop out.
And I think, well... So, they only had the footage they had. So in my opinion, I have been satisfied with the arc. I don't know how I first stumbled upon the movie, but I have. It's on a short list of movies that I am always waiting until it's forgotten enough in my brain to go for a rewatch. And that's not the most common thing for me. So I have found the arc to be quite satisfying. Although one little thing to add there is I'm usually drinking, so by the end I don't know the full argument.
A doctor who drinks, I refuse to believe it.
Dylan Schlender, how sober were you when you watched it?
Which time?
Okay. Question answered. And are you resting your case there?
Let me make sure. Yeah, we can let it sit down there.
All right, you're feeling good. You're feeling confident. All right, Vitamin D, you may present your closing argument.
I love that nickname. Well, thank you for your time today, everyone. Look, it turns out I have troll rabies, which thankfully doesn't seem to do anything, but I don't want to risk it, so I'll be brief. This movie has a confused message on myth and science, and remember, it asked us to lean on science. We followed the rules, and it ended up just being confusing. The movie has no stakes after 30 minutes. The proof is all on film, and the rest is just a reprise. And as a found footage movie, it is just too slick. As mockumentary, it's just a smidge too unpolished. And when it tries to lean into one or the other, it forgets the rules of the genre, i.e. the phantom cameraman that I talked about before. So let us pull this troll of a movie into the sun, let it explode, and move on to watching more inspired and complete found footage movies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender. Dr. Smith, you may present with your final argument.
In the world of foreign films, some people look to the French, some people
Ryan.
look to Spain and to Italy. But maybe it's time we look to Norway. Because in this found footage documentary, horror, I saw actually a lot of different genres depending on where I was looking for this movie, because it's kind of a genre-bending movie. It just follows the real life of these people who are just trying to film for presumably a student project. They're just trying to film a thing for a class, potentially. And then they get sucked into this whole thing, but because they find some exciting findings. So, jury, as you consider this, enjoy this student film that's remarkably well produced. And maybe remember also that it is difficult to fault science presented by people who are not scientists, except for the one who did sound pretty nice with the way she presented the scientific words. And yeah, enjoy.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. But I thought it was a documentary, not a student film. Interesting.
Well,
it began as a student film.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
It is.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
nice try, buddy.
That's the
Members of
judge.
the
You
jury.
will watch your tone with the judge.
Oh, there you are, Mr. Ryan Louis Rodriguez. I'm sorry, I didn't see you there.
He turned to stone.
Members of the jury, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, Mr. Maynard Bangs, and Mr. Bad Bear. bad price, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine that this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict. I've never seen a troll myself. I guess they're all just busy posting on the president's Facebook account.
Yeah. Earlier they said the bailiff's mom was a troll, but that's not true. She just lived under a bridge.
Oh,
Wow.
That's his family, sir. That hurts.
All right, everyone. An interesting, thought-provoking case. I love when research is brought in. Big Ben, what are your thoughts?
Well, honestly, I'm surprised. I didn't know we had jurisdiction over foreign films. That's good to know that our that we spread far and wide over the globe here.
Reels of Justice International. It needs to be a thing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I think I pretty much agreed with all of Dylan's points. But does it sink the movie for me? That's the big question. It does sort of do a lot of hand waving. The cover up is very implausible. The phantom cameraman, that's another thing I keep seeing. And then that final shot where they're like, oh yes, the prime minister or whatever acknowledged like the existence of trolls. Like that's the whole reason they made this film. That was just one final eye roll. I do agree with all of that, but it is a lot of fun. I don't know. It has a lot of that sort of Cloverfield aspect to it. And I liked Cloverfield. And given what this was shot for budget wise, it's pretty impressive what they were able to do. What do you guys think?
Ryan?
I mean, I didn't enjoy it. It lost me pretty early on with the sub Blair Witch running in the woods at night with no lights. Only eventually they add night vision, which I don't think makes anything more compelling. There are some truly breathtaking Norwegian landscapes in the film, and if that's your takeaway, which it was mine, that's not a great movie. I mean, I wish the documentarians were actual characters instead of the guy who got bit, the guy who's not the guy who believes in God, and then the girl. I wish that there was more done with them, and it just wasn't. And Dylan brought up, as you pointed out, Ben, the phantom cameraman. That's always my biggest pet peeve with found footage movies.
Yeah.
But like the biggest thing that I came away with, like, is this supposed to be scary? Like it's like being afraid of an ent. Like I don't understand it.
And what about the Christian blood thing? Because that is a pretty big hit. Because it's
all I knew is that I shouldn't be afraid of trolls because I'm an atheist, so they're never going to eat me. So what the hell did I care?
But wouldn't that make like Hans like shouldn't he be Christian then? Because if he like realizes there's like something special about Christian blood,
yeah.
Like,
See,
they didn't
it's
think
issues
that
like
through.
this that drive me crazy. I mean, it's a gentleman's 5. Like whatever, I don't care.
It was a gentleman's 6 for me, but it was only because I kind of enjoyed this from a hacker perspective, as I think Dylan might.
I'll tell you this, it's not as good as Trolls World Tour. That's still the best movie with troll in the title.
Yeah. I mean, these trolls also weren't wearing pants, but their hair was not nearly as silly.
Mm.
You know, for me, this is a really fun creature feature. That's what it comes down to me. So, like, yeah, the characters are kind of flat, but you're not really there for them. I thought its greatest strength was sort of the troll lore, and yes, I understand that it's not real world as we would understand it. It's some sort of reality where fairy tales are true. So you know, what if all the troll myths were true? And
well,
and
if I can speak to that for I went to Iceland, and like that has like the exact same like culture kind of brought over to it, and trolls are a big deal there. They're like, yeah, there's a troll that lives behind that waterfall. So I can sort of see that being a subject you would tackle if you're thinking like, yeah, they're always there, but if I can't see them, there must be some sort of conspiracy behind it.
Well, I mean, you look at America's fascination with UFOs and ghosts.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, but those are real.
Say so. There's a similar thing, and in a similar question, like, you know, if UFOs are out there, why don't we get enough, you know, really great pictures of them? You know, we get some good ones, we get some fake ones, but only one of them needs to be real, folks. Only one. So to me,
they'll die alone, much like me.
the lore is the fun part. I think that, you know, going out and hunting the trolls is fun. I don't think it's supposed to be scary. I think it's supposed to be fun, like a creature feature is. The thing that bothered me most about the movie is the CGI of the trolls, because they're like very kind of pixelated. They don't feel real, especially that first one you see, and that throws me out of the found footage. Like that throws me out of the real world experience of it. That's kind of the thing that always bothered me. Like I own this movie. I've seen it a few times.
It probably could be done practically though. Like what else could you do?
You could do something practical. You could show the troll less. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the answer. Show the troll less. I don't know if other people would like it, but that's the right answer.
Yeah. But just like putting this thing on camera where it's like pixels is that throws the reality to me, because then it's like, well, why not just make it a fiction movie then? Why not just go all in? Because I'm more forgiving of bad CGI and stuff like Sharknado. That's not trying to convince me that it's found footage. It's really a fantasy world thing. But that's my thoughts. Let's start locking it in. Big Ben, which way are you going?
I do think it's okay, as Ryan says, a gentleman's 6, but I think the arguments Dylan brought up, they're true. Like there's too many plot holes, way too many plot holes that they could have plugged up if they put some time into it. And trying to create a conspiracy theory out of everything, like the power lines and, oh, you see that sheep out there? They're feeding trolls. Like, yeah, okay. This is all plausible. They leaned on that plausibility note a bit too hard, and then ignored the plot holes, especially the Christian blood that it opened up. So yeah, I think I'll go guilty.
Oh wow. Well, Ryan, care to swerve?
No. As I said earlier, this is a gentleman's 5, which puts it at literally the midpoint. So I was really looking to be swayed either way, and although I appreciate the good doctor's arguments, I think he did a great job, but I gotta say that I was pumping my fist in the air every single time Dylan said something, because I was like, yes, exactly. That's how I feel. I couldn't verbalize it, but that's how I feel, damn it. So I'm gonna go guilty.
My God, you two are the greatest criminals in all of American history.
Jeez, I wonder how Rob is going to put his 10 cents in.
I'm still feeling confident. We got this.
I do own this movie, and I like this movie, but the thing around the creature feature sort of community that I'm tied in, people really like this movie. Like, they put this up as being one of the best new monster movies. I've seen it a few times, and I'm usually kind of underwhelmed. I think it's a little mid. I don't think it's bad, so I'm going to go not guilty. But if you look at like the Rotten Tomato ratings and and people tell you to see this movie, it's not as good as that. I do think this experience should have humbled the movie a little bit. I don't think it should have gotten it condemned, but I'm only one man among
I'm going
two
by the
criminals.
arguments. I think it's okay.
So I will go not guilty. But that's unfortunately not enough because there's 2 trolls in this room. I'm so sorry, Doc.
Well, let's get the bailiff in here.
Hey, why are you calling Dylan a troll? That's not nice.
That's not nice.
Because I exploded the sun.
That's true. All right, let's get out there and tell that a very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Trollhunter, we find the defendant guilty of being
Wait a second, you went from Ricky Ricardo to Dracula all of a sudden.
Now I want to see Ricky Ricardo played by... I want to see Dracula played by Ricky Ricardo.
The verdict is so rendered. The makers of Trollhunter are hereby sentenced to scoop up after all the trolls set loose in Europe during the filming of this movie. Court is adjourned.
I guess there's that part where he said he genocided all of them at one point.
That was sad.
So, yeah, well, it's a point I forgot until the jury was debating, and I'm like, well, obviously I can't present this new evidence after my, whenever
The door's unlocked, man.
I rested my entire case.
It's true. There's nothing.
He's a man of honor.
Look, I've watched enough She-Hulk to know that that's what I have to rest in.
This is Amanda Hug and Kiss of the Gabagool Gazette filling in for the departed Mumbly Mumblerson.
Oh, no!
Live outside the Reels of Justice. Dylan J. Schlender, my least favorite person on the planet, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
Jeez, thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome.
I'm getting over this mumbling news. I'm gonna need a minute. Look, this case. I liked this movie, and I had a lot of fun writing this case and prosecuting it. I'm very grateful for the win, and I thought the doc put up a great case as well. I really hope he comes back to argue more movies with us because it was a lot of fun. And I'll leave it there. Take care.
Thank you, I guess. And here comes Dr. London Smith. Excuse me, can we get a word on how you feel about today's verdict?
Okay. Well, hello, Miss Hug and Kiss. I see you. It's frustrating whenever you see perfection reached, and then people still poo-poo it. So I'm gonna, no comment. They don't deserve the comment. Stupid.
That's great. Well, actually, I fell asleep, so I assume it was great. Dr. Pepper, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis.
I thought we were going to save Who Shot Mumbly M for like the season finale or something.
I didn't say he was shot.
Yeah,
No
he's
one said he was
departed.
shot,
He
Ben.
went on vacation.
How suspicious.
It was a
departed.
very long vacation.
Forced
Actually,
retirement.
I've got this video footage of Mumbly that was delivered to me anonymously, and I'm going to splice it together to make my own found footage movie, so stay tuned.
Well, no, if you recall, he retired at the end of the last
He
time
did say that.
appeared.
Yeah, he said goodbye forever.
Oh my god.
He says
And
that
was
every
then
week
taken
now.
up
I
into
didn't
his
believe it.
spaceship and beamed across the universe.
Oh,
I have to leave. My planet needs me.
God damn it.
Mumbly died on the way back to his home planet. But a fun case,
That
a
was fun. Well done,
travesty
Doctor.
of justice.
I
But
would go that far.
that
That's
is the way
The system is broken.
The system is broken. We prove that each and every week. But it's the only system we have. So
a broke system's right twice a day.
So this today. Do you guys have a case before this?
no,
Yeah, right.
we'll
It's
find
just
out.
twice over. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. But fun episode. So Doc, what is it that keeps you busy? What do you do when you're not hanging out with us?
Well, I've for one thing, I have a podcast that I do. So is this me also saying, well, day job kind of thing? I'm an unmatched MD, so that's which
I'm sure there's a girl out there for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Try eHarmony, something like that.
but okay, yes, in multiple respects, I'm an unmatched MD. Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, Coffee Meets Bagel, none of those have yielded anything. In addition to that, also I'm not practicing medicine currently. I think that's my latest title. Board member, adjunct professor. Those are my latest titles. But for my day job currently, I am doing acting stuff because I was a former award-winning child actor, and I'm been getting back into that. So unfortunately been cast in a pilot, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, best
Very
of luck
cool.
to you, man.
Can you talk about it? Which pilot?
I can give you the website. I signed an NDA, and they very recently made it very clear to me that no, I can't.
Oh yeah,
talk
no,
about it.
we don't want to get you in trouble. For sure.
But vindicatedtheseries.com. I can say that's going to have details for those who want to follow along. And yeah,
Stop recording now.
Yeah.
Now,
But there are other projects that I've been in, so that's just the looming one.
can I hear more about the child acting?
Yes, there's that whole history. So I'm one of 5 kids. Children. Very few. There were 2 goats involved, but that was separate. We were all child actors in Hollywood. So 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters, and let's see. During that, I did movies, or I did. I started with Starbucks commercial. I was in a Pepsi commercial.
I saw that one.
Yeah, thank you. You remember? I stepped on the Coke can to reach a Pepsi.
You're Kendall Jenner.
Yeah.
What's that Pepsi girl up to these days?
Yeah, well, all of us who have been in the ads know each other, obviously. They reached out. Yeah, Kendall reached out to me. She's like, well, how did you do it? And I'm like, honestly, I was short enough that stepping on a can made sense for mine, but I think you're going to have to innovate here. She's like, I think I'm going to just copy what I've been seeing on the news. So, which worked. I was also in a movie called Divorce the Musical, where I played a young version of the lead character. And that one, I reconnected with the writer, director, and star of that movie recently. And he said he was inspired because he went to see the musical Oklahoma. And while watching it, he thought, what if, and it was a children's production, I should say, children's production of Oklahoma. And he thought during that, what if it was a children's production of someone like doing a musical version of a divorce proceeding?
Jesus.
And stuff leading up to a divorce. So yes, he had that idea and then he made that movie. So anyway, I played the young version of him. I had a funny line in it. It was a comedy as far as I'm aware. And then I went on
going through some stuff.
Yeah. I went on to write, direct, and star in my own short film called Not It. And that won the Young Filmmaker Award at the Austin Film Festival. So,
Sweet.
Yeah, I was 12 years old, going to sessions with Shane Black and the writers of Legally Blonde and 10 Things I Hate About You, hanging out with them a decent amount. Which
You met Kiki? Or Kiwi?
Kiwi.
Yes. I believe I wasn't great with names then, still not great with them now, but I do believe I follow that individual on Instagram now. So that's how I know that name.
The future Mrs. Ryan Luis Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Hey,
She
don't
was
even
Charles.
say that. My girlfriend's listening. Shut up, Ben.
Oh, right.
Kate Blanchett?
My
Blanchett listens to the show.
With the doctor here, we can get something going. So yeah, and then that led me to star in a feature film called Undercover Kids, where I played one of the titular undercover kids, the lead one. And then I went earned a doctorate or so in medicine. Went to the Caribbean for that for 2 years. Graduated during pandemic, which I was one of many blessed students who tried to study while not having any study breaks. And so then I have found myself dipping my toes back into acting. But the bright side of that is it's been pretty, it's a lot faster to book things now than back when I had really bad teeth. That's a big difference I've learned. When I was young, my teeth were bad. My teeth have had work, and consequently so have I. So there's a music video out now called, it's by the band Frozen Soul. It's a heavy metal band, and the song is called Morbid Effigy, and that's a fun one. I'm in it throughout, and the first minute of it, you're thinking, oh, that's funny. He's like dancing to heavy metal, but in reality, we had Christmas music playing. And then for the next few minutes, it's like serial killer stuff. So
get your teeth fixed, kids.
Yeah, get your teeth
fixed. Get a bridge and get over it.
Yeah, that's right. Get over it is the biggest lesson for the
and
children.
look for the trolls under said bridge.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You do have to floss. You have to floss under your bridges, kids.
Tie
That's true.
it in.
For the mouth trolls. Now you've got this podcast.
Oh yes, I should
Jock Doc.
Yes, it's a Jock Doc podcast. It's
you're the jock or you're the doc or you're both.
I am the Jock Doc.
Okay.
Not the podcast though. Yeah.
Oh,
I can see how that
tell us the name.
confusing.
Tell us the name of the podcast then.
It's the Jock Doc Podcast.
That's what I said.
Jock Doc who hosts the podcast. Well, I'm clarifying that I am not the podcast. I host.
Oh, well, thank you. All right. Let me take
there are
some
three
notes
words
here.
to know.
Man is not podcast.
There are 3 words to know, and one of the words had you confused, another word had you confused, and I didn't want you to get tripped up on the third. So just
thank you. Words hurt my head a lot.
Yeah. So on that one, it's I'm a big fan of Comedy Bang Bang. I say that. I haven't listened in a while, but they that podcast has strange characters come on to kind of be just have their weird blurb, and it's hosted by someone playing it pretty straight. And so I liked that. And while I was in med school, I kept feeling very guilty for listening to that instead of listening to medical stuff. So I thought, what if I could, and then I tried to listen to medical stuff, but it was very long and slow, because like they would get into it. If you try to study
boring.
medicine,
it's boring. Just say it.
And lengthy. Lengthy is the thing. I can handle boring if it lasts 10 seconds. You know,
that's what she
good.
said.
That's exactly. I've got some good news for you.
Unmatched, no longer.
Unmatched doctor. I was going to say no wonder he's unmatched.
Yeah, I've got my phone out now. I'm changing my bio.
Don't put this in your bio. No.
So
what kind of topics do you generally cover on the Jock Doc podcast?
Well, by the title of each episode, you might guess that I'm pretty thoroughly talking on, say, middle cerebral artery stroke. But usually that part's like 5 minutes of it, and it's 30 minutes to an hour usually are the episode lengths. So it's more about my co-host Cameron, he's on there as producer Cameron, even though our actual producer is someone else. But the premise there is that from the start we wanted to make it so that I was sort of beholden to him, like I had to do a lot of what he said because he has the equipment and he's running the thing on the technical side. So it's a lot of, it started out as me trying to play it just completely straight, saying like, well, I want to teach this medical lesson, and then everyone else is antagonistic. It's gotten a little bit looser over time, but the idea is everyone else who comes on doesn't really care about medicine at all. And I'm forcing medicine in here and there wherever I can. And also not trying as hard these days to force it in. But
so you guys are keeping the boring part short and filling the rest.
That is the strategy. I'm forcing people like, oh, a character-based improv comedy podcast. See, that sounds good. And then for 5 minutes of it, they might think, this doesn't sound good. Or they might think, oh, now I know about that.
That's how I cure my tennis elbow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, good. So that sounds
good.
tennis
elbow. That's not fun.
I know. I remember that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that one to my patients.
That's why you're supposed to use a racket. God.
No, it all makes sense now.
Him out there swinging that ham.
Hindsight 2020.
No, so the Jock Doc Podcast, which is a podcast hosted by the Jock Doc, who is a person, unmatched doctor. So we've got that clarified. I imagine we can find it.
JockDocPodcast.com tells you where everything is. There are links from there. But yeah, Jock Doc Podcast is also the handle.
Oh, okay. So Twitter, Instagram, any of the
all that,
relevant
TikTok.
TikTok? Are you out there flossing?
We're not on the TikToks yet.
We're not. No, because China already gets my information, so I don't need to know more. But if you're on there,
make sure they have all of it.
Then we're out there flossing. If Japan won my information, maybe we could talk. But now we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So what is a movie that you think people should see?
This one I did pick for that reason. And the jury obviously had other ideas. But let's see, another movie that people should see. Well, Undercover Kids, at the top of my head. That's oldie but a goodie.
I love it.
Now, is it kids going undercover as something else, or is it people going undercover as kids?
No, there's one big bed, and it's sleepy time. So, no, we go undercover as, I feel like I'm giving some of it away. So, spoilers abound, okay, for this movie that was released in 2002, I think.
Go, man, go.
So we're my sister and I, my real life sister, we play telepathic twins. You get to see the aforementioned teeth on full display here, and we there's a vandalism at our school, and we are trying to figure out who did the vandalism, and they're trying, because the schools are underfunded, and that's taken from real life stuff. They're trying to cut certain electives and academics, and so we are trying to figure out who's doing the graffiti. So who consequently should be cut, who should have the funding cut, which, looking back now, maybe that whoever's doing vandalism isn't necessarily who should have their funding cut. But
well, not if it's the art kids. No, I mean they're just trying to express themselves.
Spoilers, they're a suspect.
Of course.
So, yeah, but no more spoilers. I don't want to ruin the movie for you.
No, we are going to watch this movie. And laughed, especially about the teeth.
Yeah, if you need me to come back and defend it, it is a movie that, even more so than Trollhunter, I would say it's good to have a few drinks.
We're gonna have you come and prosecute it.
Ooh, interesting.
I do know the thing inside and out. In college, I would have every semester, at least every year, maybe every semester, because I was pretty thorough about it. I would have what I called the world premiere of Undercover Kids, and I would book the university theater, Bynum Theater, and all you John Brown University student listeners, I'm sure, are going nuts over this little tidbit.
Go Gophers!
I would email that asking to book it, and then it wasn't until my senior year that someone emailed me back saying, "For a class?" And I was like, "No, just to watch a movie." And they're like, "No, that's not allowed."
That's not fair.
Yeah, well, so
All right.
I would have protested harder, but I graduated instead.
Undercover Kids. I'm going to give you that as a freebie, but I'm going to ask you for a recommendation of a movie that you're not in that people should see.
Well, that narrows it down a lot.
When its sister was in.
Let's see. Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz is a good one. I recently rewatched that.
Oh, yeah.
It is a good pick.
Yarp, that's a good one.
Yeah. And then the other very similar one, or Shaun of the Dead. Similar in the sense of how they're shot, cinematography-wise.
Yeah, and the people in it.
Characters.
But Hot Fuzz, what is it? What is about
The people
Hot
who
Fuzz that speaks to you?
Well, it's the cinematography for one thing is it's well done. That the way they tell the story of this guy is reassigned to go to a new place and sort of, and I'm stealing a little bit from a YouTube clip I watched about cinematography, which got me to rewatch the movie. But it's I don't know, the way they shot it, and then and how much they tell without saying in dialogue. It's a lot of showing rather than telling. And then, of course, these characters that we already loved from Shaun of the Dead, which I think came out beforehand. Either way, it's same basic characters.
It did 3 years earlier.
Yeah. So we already knew that we liked these characters more or less, and they're more or less going to be the same guys, except the lead protagonist, Simon. What's his name?
Pegg.
Pegg. Thank you. He's more serious in this version. He's playing a little bit more straight. It's just I don't know, a lot of a similar tone to that one, which I guess I'm recommending also Shaun of the Dead is ultimately what my recommendation is for Hot Fuzz. Just that, I don't know, the characters, it's a lot of silly mixed with serious, and ultimately heavy gravity. I'll say for that one, I would prosecute it a little bit because the ending I didn't love. But
Hot Fuzz?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hot Fuzz.
But it does
Shaun
have
of the Dead,
Timothy
I think, is
Dalton.
pretty solid.
Did have Timothy Dalton, who's like what, the 4th or 5th best James Bond, something like that.
Yeah, and that's how I judge
bad.
any movie that's not a James Bond movie is how many James Bond or actors
are in it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a good metric to base it on.
Mhm.
Schlenzo, what is your recommendation?
Oh, well, thank you, Maynard. So, in fitting with tonight's movie that we did in the court there with the found footage, I'm recommending The Last Broadcast, which is kind of a documentary-style found footage horror movie that follows a group of public access television hosts as they venture into the Pine Barrens of New Jersey to investigate the legend of the Jersey Devil. But there's an unexpected twist. That's right, trolls. No, just kidding. But
That huge letdown. Huge
yeah, it
letdown
really
for
is.
me just now.
It's 2 James Bonds, isn't it?
No.
Only one. They can only get only one.
No,
Sean
they
Connery.
actually find the guy from The Sopranos. It turns out he went back in time. Because you see, this movie came out in 1995 before the Blair Witch Project. Actually, I think it was 1997, excuse me. I'm going to have to get fact-checked on that.
Still
I thought I had the
before
date
Blair
written down.
Witch. You're good.
It's still coming out before
I heard
Blair
it was
Witch.
98, but
It might have been
Still
98.
before Blair Witch. You're good.
it's
Still
yeah.
before Blair Witch. And get this, made for $900, pure digital. It was shot with camcorders, VHSs, and all edited on one guy's computer. And that alone makes it worth checking out. But the fact that it's actually very well done and well put together, you should check it out. And you know why you should really check it out, Ben? Because guess where it's streaming?
Tubi.
It's on Tubi, baby. So go check it out on Tubi for free. Thank me later.
All right. We're promoting Tubi now.
I love Tubi. I want a
Bun.
Tubi t-shirt.
You will get one, I'm sure.
You deserve one.
I do.
Big Bun, what's your recommendation?
My recommendation has 0 bonds in it. But just as trolls are a staple in folklore in Scandinavian countries, my recommend focuses around Japanese folklore, which is yokai, which are strange apparitions. I know. I got tongue twisted.
It's Japanese movie.
A little too much sake.
I love you guys, and now we're going to graduate. I'm never going to see you again.
Get your mouth off my recommendation.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did get tongue twisted. One more time. Just
We're
as
keeping
trolls
all
are
of
a
this.
staple of folklore in Scandinavian countries, my recommendation centers around the folklore of Japan, the yokai, which are strange apparitions that appear during a certain hour at night. Wasn't that much better? Last weekend, I found myself watching a trilogy of films centered around these creatures called Yokai Monsters, produced by Daiei.
Yep.
These films are absolutely wild. I guarantee you haven't seen anything quite like them, but since Maynard likely won't make me a poster that features all 3 of them, I'll zero in on the second one, which is called Spook Warfare, as being the one that's the most worth checking out, because it's the most chock full of monsters. Now, it's not really a film that I think fits into the realms of good or bad, but it absolutely should be seen, because it's hard to hate something that just looks and feels this crazy. You can appreciate it for its use of tokusatsu effects, from an academic perspective of the Japanese mythology, riffing material for you and your buddies, or simply just take it in with your jaw agape as you realize that this was probably aimed towards children. Spook Warfare centers around a Babylonian god who is asleep for most of history, finally wakes up and makes his way towards Japan, sucks the blood out of some lord like a vampire and takes his place, and it's up to all the yokai monsters to stop him. If I were ever fortunate enough to have my own sushi bar or Japanese restaurant, these movies, along with the Daimajin trilogies, both trilogies set in feudal Japan, but have supernatural beings in them, are exactly the kinds of things that I would have running on an endless loop in the corner, just so I can constantly watch the patrons' faces with a utter fascination on it as they try and decipher just what it is that they're seeing and why they haven't seen this before. You can stream Yokai Monsters on Shudder or AMC, or rent it from a handful of other platforms. Not Apple, though, because it's too cool for Apple.
Or you could buy Arrow's really nice Blu-ray set.
Oh, sure. Yeah, support physical media.
But it is Daiei, so we should watch them. So Daiei,
Maynard,
same people that made Gamera,
recommendation?
same people that made our friend Daimajin.
Yeah, we love all those movies. What's your recommendation?
So my recommendation this week is the latest effort from this court's favorite director, M. Night Shyamalan, Knock at the Cabin from 2023. Starring powerhouse actor / all-around powerhouse Dave Bautista, it tells the story of a same-sex couple and their adopted daughter who are taken hostage by 4 strangers while on vacation and forced to nominate one of them as a sacrifice to prevent a global apocalypse. The premise is characteristically outlandish for Shyamalan, but it's actually an adaptation of a 2018 novel by Paul G. Tremblay with an indisputably better title, Cabin at the End of the World, so you can't pin this all on M. Night. But that said, the stakes actually feel quite tangible within the film, and all the performances are well executed, most notably Mr. Bautista and 8-year-old Kristen Q, who actually share the same reading level. This film is currently garnering some controversy because of its wild deviation from the source material, and while I didn't read the novel, I did read its synopsis on Wikipedia, and that practically makes me an expert nowadays. And I will say, I actually think M. Night, along with screenwriters Steve Desmond and Michael Sherman, made the right choice here for a mass market release. And I would urge people who enjoyed the film to actually read the book, unlike me, because I think it's really cool to have 2 versions of this story that veer in totally different directions across different media. It's like an alternate universe version of the same story. I might even read the book if someone sends me a free copy signed. Not necessarily by the author, but for the love of God, someone please sign it. Knock at the Cabin is currently available for rent or purchase at all the usual venues, or you can wait for the Blu-ray release date in April.
Now
Ryan,
say it like
did
you
you
were
see
more
this?
drunk.
I did not. My car crapped out when I was on my way to the theater, so I did not see it. I'm waiting for Peacock to...
Peacock! I think you'll like it, Ryan. I was impressed. I thought it was
I like
sucking.
old,
It was pretty
so
good.
I'm in the bag for M. Night. So I'm
old,
pretty
but
sure
old
I'll
is
watch
bad.
it.
I do like it, but it is bad.
Well, it's ageism. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Knock at the Cabin is interesting because there's no twist. And that's the twist. For
Spoilers!
I'm saying for M. Night, right? There's always a twist.
Yeah.
And he kind of doesn't do one.
I love his cameo in it too. It's perfect.
He is great. He's selling fried chicken on TV. Rye Guy, why don't you send us on home?
My recommendation this week concerns Polish auteur Jurgis Skolimowski. I want to make sure I get that right.
Ryan Strong too.
Wow.
It's a hard name to say. It's a hard name to say. Specifically, his first feature in 7 years, 2022's EO. This minimalist tale follows a circus donkey, a donkey named EO, who embarks on an adventure across Poland where he encounters humans benevolent and brutal. EO is probably my second favorite protagonist of last year, trailing slightly behind Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which should speak volumes. For the entire duration of the film, I wanted to reach into my television set and give EO a big bear hug. It's such a good movie that it makes me want to explore Skolimowski's back catalog post-haste. EO is currently streaming exclusively on the Criterion Channel.
Yeah, and there was that great Nelly song about him, right? Underlay mama, EO, EO,
Well, he escaped from Old McDonald's farm, so now it's just EI.
Yes, exactly.
Maynard, please tell me we're out of show.
We're not. We have to make one more donkey joke.
Oh, no, you're such an ass.
Oh, there it is. Well, enough of us braying like jackasses. We're out of show. But we want to thank our guest, the Jock Doc, Dr. London Smith, for joining us. Thank you so much, Dr. Smith.
Yep. Oh, and the podcast is one thing, and then also I have my own social media handle called Dr. London Smith, as in Dr. London Smith, and I'm on all the socials: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.
I wish my name was DR.
Slip into his DMs, ladies, please.
Please.
Well, me first. I mean, you listen to our show.
Okay, Ben, you slip into his
Then him.
DMs first.
Okay, all right.
But then ladies are right after you.
Yeah, Dr. Smith is out of your league. I'm sorry, Ben.
He is a doctor.
He's a doctor,
movie star
very
doctor, Ben. I don't know if you can compete. With great teeth. But we hope to have you back,
yes.
Dr. Smith. We hope to have you back soon, and we hope everyone else will join us again soon as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Skolimowski!
Oh, you got it.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.